The schedule has been released, and you know what that means. It's time for the schedule release videos. Za'Darius Smith got traded over the weekend. I've got some more purebred Ravens hate, and the Borg are out to assimilate new people. Check it out right here.
You're listening to the What the Elf Was That podcast, an iconoclastic look at the latest Cleveland Browns news. The What the Elf Was That podcast is part of the Fanatical Elves podcast network, a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Here's your host, Joel Cade.
Welcome to What the Elf Was That? This is our weekly... Hold on. Messing us all up. Here we go. Technical difficulties, everybody. This is our weekly rant about the Cleveland Browns and all things that go on in the NFL. Today, if you haven't noticed, if you're watching, you've noticed. If you're listening, you haven't. I've got with me today the man, the myth, the legend, John Suchan. Say hi, John.
Hello. How is everybody?
You guys may recognize that voice from the Johnny Cleveland podcast. So, and he's got a nice elf on his hat today.
Yeah,
so he's in the mode for What the Elf Was That.
I'm trying to wear my brightest green shirt that everybody can see me. Oh wait, maybe not. You might be listening to us.
Well, we got a lot going on since the last time What the Elf Was That was going on. We've had the schedule release, and I know everybody's talked about the schedule and everybody's discussed the schedule, and you can find some excellent podcasting from me and John and Elliot. You guys know Elliot if you listen to Football Philosophy and Rocket Science, discussing the schedule ad nauseum, so I'm not going to bother you with that today. But the one thing we will talk about today, which to me is the most interesting part of the schedule release, are the schedule release videos. So John, have you seen these?
Yes, I have, and I could watch them over and over again.
Now, there are some good videos this year. There are some not so good videos. And there are some other videos. So yes. I've got 3 categories of videos. So John, if you can just off the top of your head, guys, I didn't even prep him for this. So we're going to do this. Right off the top of your head, what were the 3 worst schedule release videos you had to watch? I'll start. Hold on. I'll help you out. I'll start with my number 3. Yeah. My number 3 was the LA Chargers anime video. Okay, really? First of all, I don't like anime, but I know this has been done over and over and over in these schedule releases.
Right.
Do something new. You're in LA, and all you can come up with is something like do something LA themed.
I was thinking that has something to do with maybe I shouldn't go here, like with their culture and the variety of folks out there in crazy California that maybe anime is still like cool. So I actually thought it was kind of cool. But
okay, but when you think of LA, do you think of anime? Is that what comes to your mind? Is anime?
No, I think of 1999 or I mean, anime seems like it's way back in the distance. So yeah, you're right. It's a little it struck me as a little bit odd, but then I started watching it and I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense. And then you saw some of these little fights going on and the characters. I thought it was kind of clever. Better than a few others that I saw.
So who is the audience with that? Like, do you know people who watch anime? Is it just me, or do football fans watch anime?
No.
Am I missing something in this situation?
No, I think that's a strong point. That's a very strong point.
Do you have one that you disliked that stuck out with you? Like,
yeah, I mean, I thought the whole which one was it? The Raiders? Yeah, it was the Raiders. The lock. They had to escape from the room. I thought that was a little corny. I thought we've already done the escape room in the past too. So
that was the New York Giants.
Oh, that was the Giants.
I got some stuff to say about this one later.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit hokey dokey. Like, what's that all about? I didn't like.
You know what? Since you brought it up, I'm going to skip ahead. The secret category are the 3 stupidest videos I've seen, and the stupidest video I watched was the New York Giants in the escape room. What does that have to do with anything? You're taking football players who went to college to play football. These are not people who went there because they are the brightest and best of the academic world right now. Okay, maybe some of them aren't. I want to push them all out there. But by and large, these are not like the Rhodes Scholars of people in college. And you're asking them to solve intellectual problems.
Right. Yeah. It just.
How could this go wrong?
Many ways. And no, it was hokey and didn't like it. Did not like it. The other one I didn't really like. Well, I thought it was okay, but the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
I didn't quite follow that. Like Dreams and trying to follow it just seemed a little bit discombobulated.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. That's kind of like the what the elf was that?
What the elf
when
was
you're
that?
watching?
I love the title.
What was that?
Of your podcast? I think it's the best title.
I think it aptly fits. If you listen to this podcast, you know I'm asking some of these questions like, what are people thinking? All right, so number 2 on my bottom 3 is the Washington Commanders.
Okay.
And the AI written schedule release. Every time.
Yeah, I did not see that one. So fill me in.
Okay, so you got like Tutty the pig thing. I mean, every time I see that pig thing, I think of the Browns where they released that Seinfeld piece of like Kramer. I saw a pig man.
You saw a pig
It's
man.
a pig man. It's a pig man. I saw a pig man. Like, I can't get over it. Every time I see him, I think, oh my God, it's a pig man. What's the pig man doing now? But they had him on a computer and like AI, like he's chatting with some AI bot or something. And the AI bot was telling him how to write a schedule release because the head coach, you know, who clearly knows a lot about analytics. That's a joke, by the way, because he has no clue about analytics. Who clearly has clear what's going on with analytics, is like telling him to get a schedule release. Like that pig probably knows more about analytics than Ron Rivera.
That's true. Have you listened to any recent coaches conference call? He doesn't seem like he's always on top of his game.
I mean, this was the guy after last year, after the Browns game. They said to him,
right?
You know, could you have made the playoffs? He's like, we could have made the playoffs today. Right. Like, dude, you're coaching the team, and you have no idea you could have made the playoffs.
I'm trying to think of a character that would resemble him, Ron Rivera. Like,
I mean, you can just think of Kramer. I mean, like,
right. What? What do
you mean I can make the playoffs? I got to go deal with this right now. All right, so my number 1 bottom 3 is the Indianapolis Colts and eating through the schedule. They made a 10-minute video of people eating, 2 players eating food from the town that they were going to play.
Okay.
So, you know, when it comes to Texas, they have like this steak. Oh, we got to be eating. We're playing the Houston Texans. And, you know, they come out with this plate of nothing and they're all looking around like.
There's not a lot to do in Indiana.
This must be the bye week.
There's not a lot. I mean, Indianapolis, the Colts. I mean, have you been through Indiana? I mean, did you go to school
I've been there. I mean, I've been in Indiana. I mean,
that's right. Yeah, you were over in Illinois, so you know a little bit about Indiana.
I went to school in Illinois. Yep, and I was at Notre Dame for a while. So that Notre Dame's still a part of that Indiana that's considered part of Chicago.
Right. So
you know, because it used to be. It used to be that parts of Indiana were on 2 different time zones, but they put an end to that. But I had a friend who was growing up, and she would always like when I went to college. I met this woman that I know, and she grew up in the South Bend area, and she was telling me that her house was on one time zone, but the school she went to was on another time zone.
Really?
So she had to get up at like an hour early that she lived in to be to school on time. Like, this is the kind of stuff that goes on in Indiana.
Now the only good thing about Indiana, this is basketball, but it was the movie Hoosiers, which I will stop on a dime if that movie comes on. I would show that movie to all my former athletes that played basketball for my teams in the past. It's one of those classics. It's been out there.
Gene
forever.
Hackman.
Oh, you just got to stop and watch that scene at the end where he says, "This is my team. I'm going to say this one time." You know, I just love that scene in the locker room.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, back to football.
All right, so let's go back to the top 3 videos.
The top 3, yes.
So what do you have? What was one of your favorite?
Well, my third probably would have been that the Chargers anime one.
Come on now.
No, and I mean the
Defend it.
Browns defended. I mean, I thought it was like I said earlier, watching it from the beginning. You're right. It's anime. It's like old, but then I started watching it and it was like, well, it took some effort. Somebody at their department, and I'm thinking about my son. I got a son who's in media production and he's, wants to work for NFL teams. So I'm thinking what he would have done. And there was a lot of probably time and effort that went into something like that, other than opposite of somebody like Buffalo Bills who put together.
Yeah, that seemed
like this is like discombobulated.
Hey, we got 8 extra hours. Let's throw some crap together.
Right, exactly. Like, oh shit, I forgot about this stuff. I
got an extra newspaper.
Right. I mean, you think about it. None of these people used to do this kind of thing. I mean, this is all new. Like, this is the new NFL. Like, oh, we got to create a video to come out or do something that to capture the interest of fans for 3 seconds, and then everyone will forget about it. But my number 2 was the Nashville one.
Okay.
Well, actually, that would be number 1. Hold
okay.
on, I'm spoiling it for you.
That's okay. Nashville's not on my list, so I'm spoiling it for you.
Two would have been the Browns. I thought the Browns, the elf was just, I love that, and that get Nathan Zagura and the guys to kind of do their little thing, and they had character names for the different people that come up, like here comes Sleeper Seattle, and stuff like that. I thought
Sleepless in Seattle no more.
Right. So that was clever, and yeah.
My number 1 was actually the Cleveland Browns Pro Wrestling, and it's because it's very Cleveland. You've got the Miz out there doing the pro wrestling thing. You got Nathan Zagura, who's, clearly interested in pro wrestling. Football fans watch pro wrestling as a demographic. It made sense. You have these Clevelanders, they're athletes, they're pro wrestlers. Let's do a pro wrestling. To me, that made sense. That said Cleveland. All right, I'll give you my top 3 here. Number 3, and you're going to hate me for this, the Pittsburgh Steelers, how to schedule a release video. That was classic. It was like the 1960s, 50s, like black and white. Hey, Johnny, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And hey, why do we have schedules? What's changed since the 1920s until the 1990s or the 2020s? And it's content. Oh, there goes my dog. He's a big Browns fan.
That's yours. I wasn't sure
my
that
dog.
was mine.
He's a big Browns fan. He's out there barking. He hates the Steelers.
House too, so yeah.
He hates the Steelers. Got to bark about that. Yeah. So they got the whole 1950s teach Johnny how to make a release schedule, and they start making fun. Some people like to it was what's different? Well, the difference is content, and this is how you do this. Some teams will come out with the overdone and overdrawn out anime video, hence the Chargers. Some teams will come out with the AI is going to write their schedule release, and that's the freaking Commanders. And they do this because it's popular, So the Steelers, the old to me that said Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh's kind of this like old steel
snarky
town, and
but they're snarky too because they know they're kind of.
Yeah, that's just them. I liked the Green Bay Packers. They did this one as seen on TV, the old time like 1990s commercials where the product comes out and what about this and what about this?
Oh, yeah.
Come buy this as you saw it on TV, and having been to Green Bay a couple times, I think that's what kind of Green Bay is about. It's kind of little town in the Midwest there. They're little kind of in their ways, and they do things, and
definitely
I love Wisconsin. Yeah, I love Wisconsin. I'll go to Wisconsin any day of the week. Just to sign me up.
I thought I might be able to. My son, actually, I think I might have told you this off air one time. Alec recently just he almost got the job up there with the media production team, so that would have been pretty cool.
That'd have been fun
for next year.
Yeah. All right, so on to our third category, which is the stupidest 3 that you've watched. Anything that you thought was just utterly ridiculous, like why am I watching this?
Well, I think I just got to go back to the one I already mentioned, which was the New York Giants. I just thought that was just boneheaded. I didn't get that. I felt like the escape room has been around for 15 years, 10 years when it got real popular. Do you do escape rooms still? Do you and your wife?
I mean, we've done escape rooms with the family and attempt to do like a family, let's work together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And usually how those end is like everybody ends up fighting and wishing we'd never done it to start with. But that's just my family, apparently. Apparently other families get along.
Well, this is another stupid, I'm sorry, this is on a completely, but we're talking about stupidity. I saw the most stupid commercial today. Just happened to watch it just earlier before we came on air. The two boys two children upstairs are arguing. They're having a fight between each other. And the mom's trying to decide, what should I do? So she gets on Amazon and she buys one of these bunk beds or beds that the kids can do all their individual stuff, and it's kind of spacey and stuff. Anyway, it was just so silly because then at the end of the commercial she goes up and the boys who've been fighting and pushing each other are now having fun and exploring, talking about different things in their new beds. And I'm like, what is this all about? Like, what are we?
Amazon's going to solve your problems. Your kids fight, just buy them a new bed, and they'll get along perfect.
And I'm a school counselor by trade, so it's like, what the hell? What the elf is that? Like,
yeah. So the New York Giants escape room was my number one stupid video because, like I said before, what does this have to do with football? And you're asking football players who aren't known to be the most intelligent people on the planet. I mean, just listen to some people like quarterbacks from Baltimore talk, and you can understand they're not all there. And you're asking them to do intelligent things. This is not their wheelhouse. My number 3 was the Jacksonville Jaguars wrote a whole video on how the NFL is scripted. It was really, really dumb. I mean, it almost like I'm one of these people that feels like maybe I should do a podcast on this one point as to why. I'm the one of these people who really feels like the NFL has really embraced the entertainment side and is willing to compromise the competition side for the entertainment value. And I think there's a way they do it. There's a way it goes on. I swear the refs are either paid off or bought by teams. There was a report one time where Dan Snyder of the Washington Redskins at the time was actually paying officials, which to me made sense. And their response was, well, it didn't help us if we did, which isn't a denial. You're not denying you're paying these people off. So there's some fishy stuff going on. I don't know how to describe it all.
Well, yes.
But to come out and just do this kind of mockery of, the NFL scripted like pro wrestling, I think is another attempt to just kind of dismiss people who I think could make a legitimate claim. And so if you make it into a joke, then everyone's just going to make fun of the people who think these stupid things, and it kind of sweeps it under the rug. And you only do that to stuff because you're afraid it's going to come out.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm starting to sound like a weirdo.
So if it is really scripted, then I want to know, when are the Browns going to win the Super Bowl? Because I'm
not a fan of saying it's scripted. I'm just saying there might be a purposeful, terrible call at an opportune time to make sure one team has an advantage over another. I mean, there are ways to influence games, and it has nothing to do with a script. But anyway, I digress into conspiracy theory stuff.
I like your theory there, though.
You got to come back on, and we'll do the conspiracy theory episode.
Oh my God,
all right,
it'll be
epic. The second stupidest video I watched was the Dallas Cowboys video. Now, they got the writer from Yellowstone on, and they're interviewing people to be on the show. And then Jerry Jones comes out, takes up the spotlight, says some stupid stuff, and they trade envelopes. Like, did they pay the Cowboys to advertise?
Right.
Like Yellowstone. I've never seen this show. I don't know if it's still on. I don't know, whatever.
It is. It's still on, yeah.
But did they pay the Cowboys to say, hey...
Are you taking over for Kevin Costner, by the way? I don't think they renewed his contract for the next season. So are you taking over for him?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not taking over for anybody. I've never even seen the show. I don't even know what it's about. But all I'm saying is, how do you dedicate 10 minutes of a video to a television show when it's supposed to be about a schedule release?
Right.
And at the very, very end, they trade envelopes and they throw the schedule up. Like, what did I just do with my life?
Well, it kind of goes back to the whole Dallas soap opera. Remember the old Dallas show at night? It'd come on at 9 o'clock on Thursdays on CBS.
Okay. Do a Dallas theme thing. Make Dak Prescott JR. Like,
right.
let's do it, man. But I just thought that was just like, what are we doing right here? And of course, my favorite was the New York Giants escape room. The other one I felt like I just wasted my life was like that Colts one where like they're eating 10 minutes of people eating food. I can't do it. Okay. All right, real quick here.
That's some good stuff, man. If these people need to be listening to our podcast tonight, man.
I'm telling you,
this is classic stuff. I mean,
this is stuff that people really care about.
I can go back and watch this 5 years from now, and we'll be laughing.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a quick pause to pay our bills. Hang on, guys. On the other side of this, we'll come back to the Za'Darius Smith trade. We've got some Ravens hate, and we got the Borg looking to assimilate more people. All right, hang on. And we're back, guys. Thanks for hanging on. The Browns over the weekend on Friday night, in case you weren't paying attention, it's the whole weekend thing that nobody pays attention to, traded for Za'Darius Smith. Now, I'm not going to stay on this long because I think everyone's kind of talked about this one to death. And if you want to hear some of our thoughts on it, John and I were talking about this along with Steve. I don't know what his Twitter handle is. And Elliot, the Village Elliot.
He's a C-Town thug.
C-Town thug. At C-Town Thug Steve. We kind of spoke this one over, but I kind of done some look, and I'm just going to kind of project ahead to the next podcast here. I've done some film study on the defensive end room, and I got some interesting things to say about this, but I'm going to hold it off until next week on What the Elf Was That, and we'll do a little deep dive into the defensive end room and why Za'Darius Smith was a need, and they desperately had that as a need. All right, so moving on to the Ravens hate. This is by far my favorite segment of What the Elf Was That.
I just like the subtitle you got there. If you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're watching this, I just love it. I mean, I mean, come on, Browns fan. I mean, we just Ravens hate, man. We got to hate them.
I hate them. Every podcast I've done like 10 episodes of this so far. Every one has a segment where I'm hating on the Ravens. So this week, for those of you who subscribe to The Athletic, some guy named Austin Mock came out with an NFL Super Bowl odds article. So I'm calling this the mockery of the NFL Super Bowl model. So he comes out with this list of the odds for people to make the Super Bowl. Now, apparently this guy has some kind of projection, has some kind of algorithm he's come up with. Somebody in a computer doing numbers. I don't know if they know or understand football, but they know numbers. And they put together this model. So as for his current methodology, before we get to the methodology, let me tell you the end. The Browns have the 22nd worst odds of making the Super Bowl, or 22nd best odds. There are 22 on this list. And the Ravens are at number 8. And they're above teams, like legit teams. Like, they're above, they're above the Bills, I believe. The Jets.
Bills?
They're above teams that you would never think. Like, you'd be above. They're above the Eagles.
What?
Like teams.
What
teams
the elf?
Like if you line these teams up, these teams beat the Ravens. Okay.
Yeah.
I personally think the Ravens are like a match short of a dumpster fire right now. They have a quarterback situation that they don't know what the heck they're doing with that. And they were ready to move on from him and bring in Baker Mayfield to be their quarterback. Mm-hmm. They were prepared. They've lost Calais Campbell, who was like the anchor of their defensive line. So I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the strategy is, but they got to have one. I don't know what it is, but they got one. So here he comes out and says the model, this is a quote from his arc from Austin Mock's article on The Athletic. The model currently makes a projection, right? So here's this scientific model, but now the model, he is making a projection for every team. Okay, so you have to project what they're going to be. Then they simulate every single game and playoff game.
Okay.
And then he says it's important that we are still months away from the start of the regular season, and projections are subject to change. So, you currently have a model based on projections. Okay, I'm going to set this up. Based on projections that are subject to change once the season starts. Now, here's his description of why the Ravens are at number 8. Retaining Lamar Jackson and pairing him with former Georgia offensive coordinator Todd Monken, by the way. Todd Monken, formerly with the Browns. And when he was with the Browns, everybody thought he was crap. Right. But now that he's with the Ravens, he's like the savior of the Ravens organization.
Well, this guy thinks so, at least.
Right. Gives the Ravens a real shot at being a contender in the gauntlet that is the AFC. We don't know until the season starts. And here's the key. I would not be shocked if my model is low on the Ravens offense. So he's saying that he thinks his model undervalues the Ravens at number 8 to make the Super Bowl. I can't make this stuff up. Where's this coming from? So I thought, okay. Okay. There's got to be a reason for this. So I start digging on The Athletic, and I find this article by this guy named Zerbiak. Okay. Now, apparently this guy is Zerbiak. I don't know his first name. Let me find it. I bet I could find it. He's a Ravens beat writer for The Athletic.
Yes, okay.
Jeff Zerbiak wrote an article on May 15th, which is after the schedule release. I want to make sure we're aware of that because that's going to
that would have been yesterday.
Yes, after the schedule release is all you need to know about this. So he says, and I quote, he wrote this article, okay? It says there's no more excuses for the Ravens passing game following an offensive makeover. That's what this is. Mm-hmm. So he says, Todd Monken hasn't yet had the opportunity to coach a number of the key players who will make up his offense. But that hasn't stopped Baltimore's new offensive coordinator from imagining the possibilities. There's Jackson dropping back, surveying the field that will include the combination of Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, Delvin Duvernay, Mark Andrews, and Isaiah Likely. Okay, so we got it out there, right? So the Ravens offense is going to be great because they got Todd Monken, and we can imagine the possibilities that'll happen. Am I setting this up for you? It's all sunny and roses. Okay? Then he comes back later, a couple paragraphs later. The optimism at this time of the year is refreshing. But let's not get carried away. At least not yet. We're not talking about an embarrassment of riches at wide receiver. Beckham didn't play at all last year, and he recovered from a major knee injury. He's 30 and hasn't had more than 537 yards receiving in a single season since 2019. Bateman has flashed at number 1 receiver ability, but he's essentially missed half of the team's games over the first 2 seasons. Imagine the possibilities. Aguilar, he continues, will have to rebound after back-to-back subpar seasons with the New England Patriots. Flowers, this is my favorite sentence in the whole article. Flowers is an exciting and dynamic playmaker, but he's still a 5'9", 182-pound rookie. I'm going to let that sit in for a second. You have a 5'9", 182-pound rookie described as, and I quote, exciting and dynamic playmaker in the NFL. He's a rookie. You could say that Corey Coleman was an exciting and dynamic playmaker at 5'11", 210 going into his rookie year. And what did he end up doing? Dropping the pass.
This all sounds like a fictitious story.
No, this is a legit article. I sent you this article in an email.
Oh,
Go to The Athletic. Go to The Athletic and read this thing. It is all right in front of you.
It's all a bunch of horse crap.
I can't make this up.
And the thing about it, it's just so disturbing, Joel, to me, is that you and I we're hardworking. We write for Dog Pound Daily and other blogs, and you and I both spend a lot of time researching and taking the time, and yet I read some of the worst crap on some of these other things like The Athletic, who's supposed to, you have to pay a subscription, and I just find this to be horse crap.
This reads like a hype piece.
Oh,
Like,
it's terribly hyped.
it's a hype
yeah.
piece. All right, so let me finish this sentence. 182-pound rookie who will have to adjust to the speed and physicality of the NFL game, right? The exciting, dynamic playmaker. Let's get excited. But he's 5'9", 182 pounds, and he's going to have to adjust to the NFL. Duvernay and Likely haven't yet established themselves as consistent offensive threats. But imagine the possibilities. Todd Monken's imagining the possibilities.
Joel, you're gonna have some good dreams tonight about the Brownies. I want to hear what you're gonna imagine tonight.
I can imagine.
Yeah,
it's like SpongeBob. Your imagination.
I have SpongeBob on right now. Actually, my son.
There we go.
He's a big fan of SpongeBob. I love SpongeBob. I've been watching SpongeBob for. That sounds like what I'm listening to right here.
So I'm trying to still rack my brain as to why the Ravens could be the number 8 best team in the NFL. And then I start reading this paragraph. Now, this is the paragraph you have to remember was written after the schedule release. This is what he says. There also figures to be a learning curve with Monken's new offense. However, there's plenty of time to go to school on that. And the idea is that the team should be peaking in the second half of the season anyway, and not necessarily in early September.
Way to give yourself an excuse for the. Oh.
They don't have to peak in early September, but I'm going to point out 3 of their first 5 games against the AFC North on the road. They played the Bengals, Browns, and Steelers on the road.
Okay.
In the first 5 weeks of the season. So now he's telling me they don't have to be really good until the end of the season. All right. So, and it concludes with this. So this leaves the Ravens with no excuses, absolutely no reason why they can't have a dynamic and balanced offense. So you come out here, you give me how great the wide receiver room is, then you take it all back, then say, but they're going to have to adjust to the situation, and there's no reason why they can't be good.
This guy's a manic, man. He's manic. He's like on a high. It's like a roller coaster with listening to you talk about this article.
But you read the article, you think exhausted. Like, this is all like, this is great, this is awesome, this is fantastic. You know, we got Todd Monken.
A deep dive, like, you know, and then it dives on the other side. It's crazy.
Like, I can't even understand. Even when you're trying to hype the Ravens, the reality of their situation still creeps into what you're hyping. Like, oh, the Ravens are great, but oh yeah, their wide receiver 1's crap, their wide receiver 2 crap, their wide receiver 3's a rookie. I mean, you know, got a couple other guys who are like, they haven't proven they can do anything yet, and you got a couple other guys who have yet to establish themselves in the NFL. And they're going to be fantastic. They got no excuse. Okay.
Joel, you're spot on, man. I mean, what this guy is talking about is just it's complete fluff. I mean, you and I could have written that in 20 minutes.
I think if I wrote that, it would get sent back to me saying,
"Oh, I know it would.
There's no evidence, and you can't write this because
I know you and I
made
both
no
know
case.
This.
You've made no case."
Yes, and we know this because you know we get edited and we talk to our. I don't know what's their accept. It just tells me that Baltimore and their writers and the Athletic, whoever's there. I'm just going to hate on them right now because they're obviously awful. That you can put this crap out here on the Athletic, which is supposed to be this great place to read stuff.
I subscribe.
That's terrible. I'm sorry. That's just fluff.
Well, I still haven't figured out why Austin Mock at this point can say, and I quote, "I wouldn't be shocked if my model is low on the Ravens offense." I mean, how much lower can you get? No, how low do you have to be for it to say that I'm not too low on the offense?
I mean, if they lose Lamar Jackson, I mean, they don't have, like, every year it's been Lamar Jackson. It's Lamar Jackson's team. If they don't have an identity without Lamar.
Right.
I don't know. Where do they go? I mean, they used to hang their hat on their defense. You know, Ray Lewis and all those guys like you were talking about. Was it Campbell you said?
Yeah, you let Calais Campbell leave.
Yeah. So they're relying on Lamar, and I mean, oh, that just makes me sick listening to that crap.
There's some good players on their defense, okay, but it is not what the Ravens defense used to be.
No.
And the offense, I'm telling you, 32 NFL teams watched Lamar Jackson run a pro-style offense at Louisville.
Yeah.
Almost all of them wanted him to be a wide receiver. And now you're going to tell me he's going to figure it out with Todd Monken. And they're just going to run an air raid offense, which has not worked in the NFL. It has not worked in the NFL. Go ask the Cardinals if this crap works. They brought in the air raid guy. They brought in the air raid quarterback in college to run their air raid system, and it still was garbage. So I don't know what they think they're going to do. Now watch him go out and win the Super Bowl, and I look like a damn fool. But
We need to come back to this. This will be a fantastic take. We need to.
Yeah, this will be bad takes revealed. Well,
May
come
16th,
get me.
2023. Let's go back to what the elf was that, and listen to Joel.
Cold
make fun
takes
of it,
revealed.
And here we are.
Oh, goodness.
that is
I have
tremendous.
too much fun, Dim. All right, so let's move on to our next segment. The Borg. They are back.
Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
That's right. The Borg is back. And so in case you're listening for the first time, you'll know that I call the NFL ownership the Borg because they act as a collective in service of the collective. And if you ever wonder what that looks like, just look at how they effectively colluded against Lamar Jackson's contract and his contract status, and nobody said a thing. I said a thing, but nobody else said a thing. Like nobody in the national media said a thing about Lamar Jackson being colluded against. So they're back. The Washington Commanders sale, they have been sold to the Josh Harris Group. I went on a rant about this a couple episodes back. Josh Harris, of course, was the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers when they went through the process where they basically lost every game conceivable in the NBA until they got the transcendent talent, and they end up getting one in Joel Embiid. I don't know how he says his name.
Yeah.
And now the Sixers are good.
Yeah, but they just fired their coach, by the way. Did you see that?
No.
Doc Rivers got fired today.
Let me tell you something. I am an NFL purist. I don't pay attention to basketball. I don't pay attention to baseball. It's to me.
That's why
this is
we love
my
you.
life. This is my life.
This is what
It's
I
the
talk about,
NFL.
though. When we talk about our network, our Fanatical Elves network, I always mention, Joel, that you are like all things football. Like if you want to follow along, not only get hot takes and crazy takes from the likes of myself and Elliot, you're there to bring us back to the X's and O's. And if you're a fan of football and you've played the game of football, you're just you have such a great take at that. So,
Well, I
that's
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Listen to my podcast. Of course, right now you are listening to the podcast. Listen to John's podcast.
That'd
So,
be great.
As I mentioned before, the Commanders sale to Josh Harris. One of the people involved in the sale in that Josh Harris group is Magic Johnson. Now, this is where the story gets interesting because Magic Johnson was also being courted by Mark Davis to buy into the Raiders.
Ooh.
So now that Magic Johnson is a part of the group that's buying the Commanders, Mark Davis, who's looking for another partner, who's looking for money, basically he's just looking for money. That's what the Borg does. They want the money, right? Show me the money. Now they're going to go find a new person to invest in the Raiders. And that person apparently is Tom Brady. So apparently it is reported that Mark Davis is looking to add Tom Brady to the ownership group. Now, apparently Tom Brady owns another franchise or a part of some kind of a franchise out there in Las Vegas.
Women's basketball, the Aces of the WNBA.
Are they owned by Mark Davis?
They're owned, yes, somehow they are. And so that was part of the reason why this is the next steps. Apparently, Brady's not going to have any ownership as far as personnel and he just in there for, like you said, for the money.
He's to be a limited partner. Yes. Yeah, so
right.
He's just going to buy in and they're just going to use his money basically.
Right. Crazy.
So apparently Tom Brady and the ethical question over can he be an announcer and still be an NFL owner? Now, people apparently are NFL announcers and owners at the same time. Nobody has a problem with this.
No, they don't. Interesting, isn't that?
So Tom Brady signed this $10 million, $350 or 10-year, $350 million contract.
Yep.
He's just going to take that 10-year, $350 million contract and just shift it right into owning the Raiders. So now we have Fox or whoever's hiring Tom Brady is now basically funding him to own the Raiders.
Yes, absolutely. And yet we're going to, just crazy. I don't even want, there's so many issues here. So many. I don't even know where.
The Borg are going to assimilate Tom Brady. They're going to make him their new mouthpiece. So at some point.
They are. You think about it. I mean, somebody like Tom Brady or like even Peyton Manning. I mean, like you think about all the, Brady's been associated with Trump and some of these other people and politically, and you just really wonder, the next steps. Obviously he's buying into these other teams now. I mean, that could be legitimately where some of this goes. It's kind of crazy, but you think about it.
Donald Trump was a part of that whole, was it the USFL? They created that whole USFL and then it went under and then they sued. Right. And the whole point of the lawsuit was to force the NFL to assimilate some of their teams as a part. That's what they were trying to win, was the NFL to take on a couple of their teams, because Donald Trump badly wanted to own an NFL football team.
Yes,
so
he did.
Maybe this is the end. Tom Brady would be like, hey, I got this friend. His name's Donald. He could probably be a pretty good owner. Unless he's not, then he's a terrible owner, and then we don't have to get rid of him.
I just want Peyton Manning to keep doing those Subway commercials. I like the Subway. Did you see the latest Subway commercial?
I have not.
He does it with Charles Barkley. I just think Peyton Manning's a good guy. There's a guy. Isn't he from Indiana? No, they're from Tennessee.
Who, Peyton Manning?
Yeah, he played for Indiana, the Colts, but he was from Tennessee or New Orleans or
New Orleans.
Yeah.
He went to Tennessee because the Manning favorite quarterback coach guy was coaching at Tennessee. Then that guy was coaching at Ole Miss, and I don't know. He may even got hired at Ole Miss because Eli went to Ole Miss. I don't know. The first one of those Mannings to go to college and not be coached by whoever this is that does the quarterbacks, the same guy who coached Daniel Jones and Duke. The first one is this kid that's going to Texas.
Oh,
was that Arch? Arch is going to Texas.
Yeah.
They're not going to have their favorite quarterback coach there coaching him up. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see this guy. I can't think of his name. Wouldn't be surprised if we don't see this guy end up on the Texas coaching staff after all. Maybe that's probably part of the whole deal. You want Arch, you're going to have to bring this guy in.
I had an interesting conversation. Not to, we're talking about the Mannings, but he played at Tennessee, right? Peyton graduated from Tennessee. I did a podcast with the Shakes Montana last night. He covers the New York Giants, and we were talking about the Browns' first draft pick. And I'm not trying to change subjects here, but we took Cedric Tillman, and they took Hyatt on that pick before, which I had forgotten. And that kid was the one that the Browns had kind of looked at as well. He was discussed, at least, that the Browns might have taken him. So, but this guy that I did the podcast with, he was talking about the Browns' new Cedric Tillman, and he was saying, when he was watching film on Tillman, that when people would talk about Hyatt, they'd always mention Tillman, that Tillman was actually the better of the two. And so the New York guy was saying how the Browns really probably got the better of the two wide receivers, which would be really good for us as Browns fans.
I hope so.
Yeah.
This is where I put in my normal SEC condition clause. Okay. So you ready for this?
Yes.
Alabama cannot beat the worst NFL team in the league. Okay.
No, they cannot. Yeah.
The SEC is not that good. It's not professional football. Just because you're good in the SEC does not mean you'll be good in the NFL. And an SEC team cannot beat the 0-16 Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Alabama at their best could not beat the 0-16 Cleveland Browns. Just want to make sure everybody who lives in SEC country understands that. I think sometimes that gets a little confusing. I understand. But, SEC football is not like God's gift to the world.
Well, you know this. I mean, you've played in the trenches. You've played college ball. You know what you're talking about here. A lot of us fans, we just kind of come at it like, oh, wow, they're on CBS on Saturday afternoon and they're playing LSU. My God, these teams are just amazing. They could probably beat the Browns. Or they could beat the lowly, this team or that team. So
no, they can't. Even when the Browns were 0-16, wasn't that the year that Deshaun Kaiser was out there? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Deshaun Kaiser was the fourth ranked quarterback in that draft. He was way better in college than whoever Alabama was throwing out there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's on an 0-16 football team. And the garbage quarterback they had was still better as a quarterback than whoever Alabama was totting out there at the time. So, I mean, people just need to understand the NFL is like light years ahead of college football.
You should cover a segment on that in one of your upcoming episodes. Maybe rocket science, the football philosophy and rocket science with your buddy Elliot. By the way,
he'll come out with some stats.
Elliot, the smartest. What is it? How did we describe
the most
Elliot
interesting man in the world?
The Dasaki
Dos commercials.
The Dokasi commercials. Yes.
The guy with the beard. Stay thirsty, my friends. You know, those like the world's most interesting man. That is Elliot. Elliot is the world's most interesting man.
Yes. His discussion the other day when he messaged you and me about our YouTube channel for the Fanatical Elves Network. We're still trying to get that off and running. So I'm learning things about YouTube that I didn't know. So
I'll hit you off air with some resources.
Okay.
But speaking of hitting me off air, I think that wraps up our show for the day. Any last thoughts, John?
You know, you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you for having me on your programming. Joel, you are off and running and helping our Fanatical Elves Network and part of Fans First Sports Network. And Joel just some amazing things. He's a great writer as well for Dog Pound Daily. So I just enjoy being part of your podcast.
Well, thanks for being on. And we'll have to get you back on to discuss whatever it is you were going to discuss with me. I forget.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. But I forgot after 20 minutes. That's how bad I am. But all right, well, that wraps us up for this week. Thanks for tuning in. And next week we'll have some more iconoclastic looks at things.
Thank you for listening to the What the Elf Was That podcast. Please like, subscribe, and tell all your friends to give a listen. You can follow host Joel Cade on Twitter @TheLeftGuard.